On the agenda tonight, we're jumping into part 2 of Eric Clapton and Phil Palmer performing Before You Accuse Me back in 1990 and chatting with Phil about his impromptu solo. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So we're going to be jumping straight back into this one where we left it in part 1, where myself and Phil were talking about Jimi Hendrix and his control of feedback. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So no matter how much you try and play a Jimi Hendrix song, especially the live versions, you think, well, that was a perfect moment in time where everything comes together.
Only ever happened once. That perfect storm of elements that come together to make something happen with the guitar, and that's the beauty of it. That's the spontaneity that I love. That's the best bit.
I mean, I love kind of seeing live performances and standalone performances. Unfortunately, it just reminds me of a video I did recently on my channel where nowadays on Instagram and YouTube Shorts, it's now the thing that's in vogue, but even saying that, it doesn't really sound quite right, because it's people pretending to play, but they've pre-recorded the solo, and done comp takes and stuck them all together, and then they're pretending to play it. And on a video recently, I kind of took people through how the fingers weren't matching what we were hearing. But of course, everyone, under the post was saying, "Oh, amazing talent," and all this kind of stuff, and it's an interesting kind of angle to look at it. That I know a lot of people say, "Oh, there's so much talent out there," they can see on the internet. But I mean, I said on that video that 99% of what I'm seeing is pretending to play over the top of the backing track that's been pre-recorded, done multiple times until they've got it right.
I'm sorry, I don't agree with it. The people that come to see the Dire Straits legacy gigs are often talk about the fact that everything that they hear is spontaneously happening on the stage. There's no backing tracks. There's nothing else going on. We even we discuss sometimes if it's a good idea to use a sample keyboard on something, because in a way that's cheating too. But no, it is that for me is the beauty of playing live, because you never know what's going to happen, and consequently every performance is different. It may be subtly different, but playing Sultans of Swing for the 2000th time, I'm still able to find something new to do in it. And as one of the reasons Mark Knopfler broke up Dire Straits was that he didn't want to have to do that every night. He wanted to have the freedom of being Mark Knopfler. He wanted to give like Eric did. And Eric never played the same solo twice, and but Mark was kind of forced to play a lot of those lines because that's what people came to see. And I think that's what made him stop the Dire Straits thing. At the time, I think Dire Straits was the biggest band in the world, or certainly one of them. And he said, "No, I don't want to do that anymore in a football stadium. I want to go to smaller venues and just be me, and not have to repeat something that I played in 1975 every night." And I get that.
Yeah.
Get that. But at the same time, the people that paid to come and see Dire Straits wanted to see those things, wanted to hear those licks, and they felt cheated if they didn't. So it was a difficult moment.
I guess it's probably the problem was being too good in the first place to write a line that's so melodic that people want to hear. I always say about the great lines, the great riffs, you can literally hear it as many times as you want and it never gets old. And that's both the good thing and the bad thing, because the bad thing is that now you've got to play it. And yeah, well, the good thing is that it was melodic, that a lot of people want to hear it again. But yeah, for the creative artist, especially if you're talking about now having written lots of songs with lots of solos that all, that everybody wants to hear exactly the same way, or wants to hear particular parts, because then effectively you're spending a couple of hours a night, a few hours a night, just playing the same things all the time.
I mean, it's soul destroying. I mean, this was the difference between Eric and Mark, really. Just to give you an outline, the rehearsal period for Eric's band was 3 days, right? And the rehearsal period for Dire Straits was 3 months. And it wasn't, the songs are quite complex, the arrangements, Dire Straits songs and stuff like that, quite complex. But it was so that Mark could incorporate all the important licks that he had to play and still have the freedom to try and be himself. And the dynamics of the Dire Straits catalogue is really worked out. It's years and years of being on the road. The dynamics in Eric's band would happen, but they would be spontaneous, and it just happened to be at that moment on that night, and the next night it would be different. So you didn't have all that rehearsal time to figure this stuff out. You didn't need it because it was spontaneous. You couldn't be really spontaneous with Dire Straits. The arrangements were too intense and too difficult.
Should we have a look at Eric being spontaneous and finish off the video?
Wow.
And then maybe we'll, if we've got time, we'll jump into some kind of just concepts or a basic idea of playing spontaneously and just kind of extemporizing and kind of how best to approach that as a player and for other players out there. But let's jump back into this. Let me select it and play.
Oh, you accuse me. Take a look at yourself. You say I'm spending my money on other women. You're taking money from someone else.
That was fun.
And there we have it. Just the way that he just kind of navigates his way kind of through that solo. I mean, I can see that you're smiling as well. Just kind of listening to, I mean, it must be great to have the memories of this kind of thing and be able to see it as well, because I think a lot of people that do go out there and gig don't necessarily have their gigs recorded, especially kind of on YouTube, where you could just kind of jump into it and see it from another perspective.
Yeah, it was a beautiful day. I mean, that playing in that band anywhere was always great, but that was a particularly special day, and it's great, very fond memories of what was going on the stage. I mean, the spontaneity, again, to use my favorite word, but the stuff I'm hearing then, it wasn't prearranged. It was just happened. You listen to Nathan, the stuff that Nathan is doing, Nathan East on the bass, it's just remarkable, really.
Everything's kind of, I was going to say kicking off, but it's not, and that's the point, that it's not taking too much attention. You just hear these little bits of, I don't know, the little bits of gold that you can hear just being sprinkled, and you know that it's just great musicians coming up with things, but not taking the limelight. They're just
that was the key, certainly for another guitar player being in Eric's band. If you started stepping all over Eric, then you'd be gone. You know, it's an art to try and to find the right places to play. But Eric was very generous in that respect. You know, he would encourage me to play. And there's a few bits at the end of it. We were doing that together. That evolved over the space of a few gigs, and that's something we popped in at the end, and we did it together. Same thing with Layla. We used to do the theme at the end in harmony, and I would play his line, and he would play a harmony to it, and swap around. It was just a lot of freedom. The thing to remember about Eric is he never really. He plays from here, of course, it comes from the heart. But unlike most other guitar players, it just goes straight down his arm. It doesn't go up here at all. He's not really thinking about what he's doing. It's just instinct. And that's the beauty of it. It gives him the freedom to go wherever he wants. And in seemingly endless variations of great licks.
It would be great to jump into a little bit of, I don't know, like your approach to lead playing when something does happen and you are given the opportunity, or maybe opportunity is the wrong word, but it's put upon you to do a solo, kind of how you approach it.
I've got a few students these days. I mean, during the lockdown, I started doing a few online lessons and stuff, and I started to try and analyse exactly what you just said. I mean, it's so instinctive now that I don't really think about how I do it. But I suppose the basis of it is knowing your chord inversions. So the first thing I say to a lot of my students is pick up a guitar and play 4 versions of C major, because that will tell you, if you're in a solo situation, that you can use various areas on the guitar to play a solo in C major. It's the 3rd position C major, and there's another one up there. And all that stuff is very useful. I mean, once you know those 4 positions of all the chords, then you're not restricted to staying in one place. You can fly up and down the fretboard, and that in itself looks like you know what you're doing.
And it's also, with guitar, what I like about it is that once you kind of get used to the positions and shifting up the fretboard, when you then go to another chord, the shapes are going to stay the same.
Exactly it. So if you know those 4 shapes, if you like, those 4 positions, I call that a bridge. I don't know if that's the correct name. This is 1st position C major. It's the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. That's what I call it.
Yeah.
Whether that's the correct terms for them, but once you know those 4 positions of all the chords, then you're kind of laughing. You can join them all together.
Yeah.
And that's when it starts to get interesting, and you start to really explore playing lead guitar once you know those 4 positions.
I mean, something that you're doing there that is obviously a subconscious thing is you know where you're going, but using slides to navigate from one shape into the next shape to kind of blend them together rather than just having, right, I'm playing a solo here and now I'm jumping here and I'm jumping, kind of, getting that blend of the subtle slides that happen.
Yes. There's another little trick that I use if I'm playing in A, for example. That will get me to the 2nd position for D minor. 3 minor, A minor. It takes me automatically to the next level, if you like. Little tricks like that. As I say, I don't really think about it anymore. It just kind of happens. But that's one of the tricks I use. you join them all together somehow.
I mean, when you're listening to somebody play, such as yourself, and it all kind of blends together, I think that's maybe where people can't really decipher. They can't hear exactly what's going on technique-wise. It's like, oh, I know all the shapes, I know the notes, but how do I get it to sound like what he's doing? Yeah, you know, it's kind of that piecing it together. And yeah, I think that, yeah, putting those slides, something that I, kind of using the slides to get through a position, so that, you know, even kind of in taking the A minor as the example, taking it down to the G and kind of sliding up, and just, you know, using your, you know, if you want to go all the way through those, then it's just a case of, yeah, sliding through the octaves and then, yeah, visiting different places on, you know, on those journeys, because, you know, you can play that same line that you can just do exactly the same muscle memory, but kind of slide. I think sliding is a huge part that, you know, obviously that kind of classic kind of bluesy slide, that, yeah, it sounds great, but it can be used as a tool to start kind of blending all this stuff together. Obviously, through years and years of playing, it's automatic that, you know, you don't have to think about this anymore. It's now, right, what do I want to say through my guitar, rather than how do I do it?
Exactly, yeah. And another thing I say to a lot of students, I mean, there's so many great players out there these days that sit and watch YouTube all day and learn how to do things that other people are doing. And that's great. I mean, it's good for your technique and stuff, but it doesn't make you you. It doesn't make you individual, and that's so important. For me, and you know, there's a guy I saw called Mancuso. He's doing this ridiculous stuff, and it's very impressive. But I think after 5 minutes, it'd drive you mad. And you know, if he showed up for a session and started doing that, they'd tell him to go away. You know, it's not useful. It's very impressive, but it's not particularly useful. There's a great quote from Claude Debussy in 1910, wherever he lived, in France. He said, "Music is the space between the notes." And maybe you've heard me say this before. I think it's so relevant to playing the guitar, because if you play notes all the time, it becomes meaningless. You've got to find the right notes to play at the right time, and find ways of joining interesting chords together, you know, just by holding one simple note and making it sound right.
Yeah.
Same with bass players. I mean, if you listen to Pino Palladino play the bass, he chooses the right note at exactly the right time and doesn't do anything else, and it just works. It's beautiful. But, you know, a lot of guitar players, in my opinion, play too much. I think you've got to find a balance between technical ability and a bit of soul, a bit of taste. If you start to analyze a lot of what Eric does, okay, he's good with semitone bends. I mean, I don't know if you've ever explored them, but they're great. They're great. I mean, there's a solo in Badge, the original Cream, and it's all semitone bends. It's beautiful. That's amazing. That's hard to do, to get it accurate.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that, I mean, I sat and studied that solo when I was, you know, a kid, and it was a great thing to learn. It was a great discipline to try and understand those semitone bends, because they're difficult to get them correct and accurate. And I found myself in a situation when I was in Eric's band, having learnt that solo when I was 13 or 14 from the record. We were playing in Argentina, the River Plate Stadium, in front of 60-odd thousand people. And during the sound check, I said, "Does anybody know the song Badge? I'd quite like to do it tonight." And it was spontaneous, and we ran it through and we knocked it together real quick in the sound check. And then as we went off stage to go to the dressing room, I said, "Do you mind if I play the first solo in Badge tonight?" He said, "Yeah, go ahead." and I played his solo, that one I just played. And you know, there was a great moment between us. If you look on the video, which exists somewhere, he's laughing, he's smiling like a Cheshire cat right behind me, and it was a lovely moment.
Talking about Session Man, the book that we've
the book,
yeah.
Which I should have brought a copy with me to show you, but I didn't.
That's all right. I'll tell you what. Here we go.
There it is. Yeah. I mean, I'm really happy about what's happening with the book. It's done really well. Still doing really well. It's a lot of people have bought it, and a lot of people have taken the advice to read the book and then visit the videos that are associated with the book, because then you see the event and you understand the event from my angle.
Yeah.
And that's really nice to get that feedback.
I hope everything goes well with the evening with the book signing and the book as well, Session Man. And yeah, I can definitely recommend it highly, because there's so many great stories in there. And like you said, mentioning performances and things that you can access on YouTube, go and watch videos. So yeah, it's almost like an interactive thing that you don't necessarily get with other books. But anyway, thank you, Phil, for joining me today. I don't want to take up all of your day. I hope that everything goes well in your future endeavours, and I'm sure that we'll hook up at some point in the future again.
Look forward to it, Phil.
Yeah, to chat about all things guitar and music and what it's all about, music and life. Okay, well, thanks for joining me, Phil, and I'll catch you later.
Thanks a lot, Phil.
See ya. Bye. So another huge thank you to Phil for joining me on the channel tonight. As always, let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock.